Welcome back to Great Day Live. We are so lucky, of course, here on the backside of Churchill Downs, not only to watch the horses for the Oaks and the Derby workout, but to catch up with some phenomenal trainers. And one of those being Chad Brown, very busy man. He has 2 horses in the Derby, 2 in the Oaks. Thank you so much for making time for us today. Well, let's talk about, I mean, Sierra Leone is a monster of a horse. Kind of going into this second favorite, looking really, really good. Drew post position 2. How did you feel about that going into the Derby? And then now how do you make inroads around that post position?
You know, I'd rather be inside than outside, particularly when you have a closer in these races. If you're drawn outside, I find it's hard to drop in that first turn. You're likely to get a wide trip, or you have to take the horse all the way to the rear of the field, then you're likely too far back. So I like being inside. We have a great jockey on the horse, Tyler Gaffleone. Obviously, he's been winning the Churchill meet here the last few years. And I'm pretty confident as long as he doesn't get stopped at some point during the race, you should see his patented late run.
You've got an incredible jockey aboard, right? You know, he's been had, I think, an incredible meet everywhere he goes. That had to give you just extreme confidence to be able to team up with him once again.
You know, that's the reason why we went to him. We made a switch in February when he ran in the Risen Star at the fairgrounds, thinking, you know, I plan on going to the Bluegrass and then the Derby, and I really want the leading rider at both tracks, and that's been Tyler the last few years. So we've had some success together, but, you know, I felt that to get the Derby and a good trip in the Derby, he gave me the best chance.
So I was telling you before we went on air, look, I've been in love with Sierra Leone. It's just been my relationship with this horse because it's always so nice. You can kind of follow them as they come up through the different stakes races to make their way here. Risen Star Stakes in Louisiana, sloppy, nasty mud. Powerhouse finish, right? Like, did that surprise you in that particular race that in that kind of, I mean, we're not talking just rain. It was like a Louisiana storm. It was
standing water on the track, and I'll tell you, I liked the horse going over there, but as the races went on all through the card, and he comes from so far back, and the track was really favoring speed, I really didn't expect him to win. I thought he'd maybe need a race and run late, and it'll just set me up for the Bluegrass. And even late in the race at the 8th pole, I didn't think he was going to get there. But this horse just gobbles up ground late. You can see his big stride training every morning, and a very rare horse. I mean, it looks like to his one stride, the other horses are going too, really. And like I said, if he can get clear in the Derby and use that big stride to his benefit in the middle of the stretch, I think he can run them all down.
Well, punched his final ticket here in the Bluegrass Stakes, which that was one you had to be watching. I mean, it was like drama from the beginning, wouldn't get in the starting gate, dead last, couldn't find a hole anywhere, was not deterred. I mean, that was one for me. That was a race for the ages to watch.
It took me a couple weeks to recover.
Crazy.
The starting gate alone. So, you know, he's never really done that, this horse. You know, he had that outside post, and we know the big crowds at Keeneland, which are great. But when you have a horse in the last starting position in the 10 post right next to the crowd, he was taking it all in and took his sweet time to get in there. The starters did a great job. I took him to the gate here last week a couple times, and he did fine. So I don't anticipate that being really a determining factor in his success Saturday.
The schooling process of how they get used to things from the starting gate to the crowds to the paddock, I think is always a fascinating thing that sometimes I don't think viewers understand. It's a practice. Just like practicing out here on the track is a practicing of getting used to the starting gate and the noise.
It is. So when you're schooling horses in the gate or the paddock, what you're really trying to do is, you know, get them familiar with it and almost trick them in a way so that they're not sure on race day when you're bringing them there if they're going to run or not. That way they don't get anxious and burn a lot of energy worrying about the race that's about to happen in a half hour or in a minute or so when you're in the gate. So gate schooling's out, and paddock schooling's going to start tomorrow in this new paddock at Churchill.
It's something else.
It's magnificent, but it's a lot for a horse to take in too.
I thought
so we want to get over there and get him used to it.
It's a lot for a person to take in. I can only imagine for a horse. I don't want to ignore domestic product before we go. I want to just see how has that horse been training this week.
He's another one. He's training
really
super, and he's a real eye catcher. He's a jet black horse. You can't miss him out there training on Derby and Oaks training hours, and he's coming up on a big race, and quietly he's coming off a win in the Tampa Bay Derby just 2 months ago, so he might be flying under the radar a bit.
Which is kind of good, right, from a betting perspective. And big thank you to your ownership group behind Sierra Leone. Really kind of throwing out their support for the Backside Learning Center that's a big thing, and it speaks highly of them.
They're all great. The partners are huge philanthropists, all of them, and they're big contributors to our industry. It'd be nice to see them have success.
Absolutely. All right, Chad Brown, trainer of Sierra Leone, and domestic product coming up in the Derby. So a lot to watch there. Thank you so much once again. All right, stay with us. Coming up, we're going to go back to the Kentucky Derby Museum and check in with Elle, who is touring all the exhibits there. Stay with us.
150 years of Derby history.